Talk about the Monsters of Rock tour and how huge that was. It's a stadium rock and roll tour, 1988. It's probably the first of its kind for that genre of music. Obviously, the Stones were in stadiums at that point, but I don't recall a lot of other, metal bands, so to speak, playing stadium shows.
It was scary. And, it was the pinnacle of our career. I left the band on the last show of that tour. I couldn't take it anymore. The fighting and the drugs got really bad that last tour. There was so much cocaine flying around, and it was really never wasn't my drug of choice. I was more of a red wine guy. And so everybody was pretty gonzo, but the Scorpions hadn't toured in several years. I don't think Van Halen hadn't toured in several years. Metallica hadn't toured in several years. And we've been on tour for 14 months already. We were done. And then all of a sudden, we're burned out. Everybody's cooked, too much drinking, drugs, excess, craziness. And then we get the offer to go do the Monsters of Rock tour. And we literally had, I'd say, about 2 weeks to get ready. And I remember I went to Tahiti and just sat on a beach and just stared at the water because I was just burned out. And we did the tour, but, it's pretty hard when Metallica opens up for you.
Yeah, they were on right before you, weren't they? Right.
And I even told my manager, who also he managed Metallica and still does, I said, I know we're making more money than Metallica, on the tier, but can you put them on after us? I really want them to go on after us. How do I go out there and sing Just Got Lucky after they just sang Kill 'Em All? It's a whole different trip, The Scorpions are melodic and Van Halen was melodic, but Metallica was out for blood. And I gained a lot of respect for them because they really had this attitude like every show's our last show. Even though it was 104 degrees in Dallas, Texas, and they went on stage at 3:00 with the sun on their face. It was hell. People are passing out. You see 100,000 people, and you can look out there and you see people just fall down. And they pick up their bodies and they pass the body over the audience and just take the body and send them to these, they had these big cement pipes about every 100 yards with a guy in it with water and oxygen. And they send these bodies into these cement pipes and put them in there, and the guy give them oxygen and water. And it was pretty crazy, man. And the girls in the front would all try to go to the front. And then when Metallica went on stage, all the dudes rushed to the front of the stage. And all these girls are decked to the 9 yards, and they got squished. And there's no air, and there's no oxygen. And they're passing out right in front of us. And they pull them over the fence. But when they pull them over, it was so tight, their skirt would come off, their jeans would come off, their top would come off. They're half naked by the time they got over the fence. And the triage was under the stage. And we had a graded stage. Van Halen didn't want to see any monitors. So everything was hidden underneath the stage. And I could be singing, looking down through the grates and see all these chicks lined up, half dressed, like bodies, because they pull their tops off and their clothes would come off. They're missing one shoe. And I thought that was hilarious. It looked like a war zone, man. Because it was hot. It was like we did all of Texas and New Mexico, places like that in July.
Would you hang out with the other guys in the bands at all?
Yeah. It was a good thing. Well, I'd known Van Halen since the club days.
Mm-hmm.
And Eddie and I would, hang out after the show. And in fact, we'd even go back to the hotel sometime. And we're all staying at the same hotel. It was pretty hard to hide the fact you got 8 tour buses in a parking lot. So everybody knows all the bands are staying there. And we would go into these bars and there'd be a band playing, like a little 4-piece. And we'd just go over there and take over. Eddie would just walk up there and go, "Hey, man, give me your guitar." I go, "Hey, can I give me that mic?" And the Scorpions bass player would jump on bass, and Herman Rarebell from the Scorpions would jump on the drums, and we just kind of take over the band and start jamming. And everybody went crazy, because we were just having fun, you know, and weren't really playing our hits. We're playing blues and Hendrix and just fun stuff, you know.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we did. And I feel bad afterwards. These guys were like, who are these guys, you know? It wasn't like we asked them if we could play. We just kind of went up there and took over.
Told them.
We told them, yeah. But it was pretty crazy there because, hey, look, I'll be honest. I mean, there was just an insane amount of beautiful women.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was crazy. It wasn't just like a lot of girls. It was like if you weren't like a penthouse pet or a Playboy bunny or a runway model, you weren't getting backstage. Because the road crew would, you know, pick and choose. And they go, she's a 9. There's a 10 over. Try to get the 10.